Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. In this series, we'll be walking through all the key topics step by step. To follow along, you'll need to create a free tier AWS account, and many of the services will be using like AWS Lambda, the SNS, SES, SQS, IAM, and CloudWatch. These services are always free for any account, of course with some limitations, and the services like S3 and API Gateway falls under the 12-month free tier. So make sure you have your own AWS account ready. Now let's jump into the chapter one, and in chapter one we'll be covering the first point and the fourth point um, today. So I'll create a Spring Boot application for AWS Lambda, and we'll create a Spring Boot API to create a REST controller and creating an API on that, and how that API is communicating through API gateway. That part we will be covering on the next video. So for today, be covering on the first point and the fourth point. Okay, so let's get started. To create an Spring Boot application, we'll go on Spring Initializer, and in the Initializer, we will select Maven. The version you can select any of the version right now. Let's create the group ID. Let's say geeks.terminal. Artifact will be terminal geeks, and this is the description. So I'll put Spring Boot application for AWS Lambda. Okay, this will be my package name. So I'm taking this package name. Packaging is as a jar, and Java is I'm selecting 17 for now because I don't have 11 option here. But in my POM, I'll change it to 11. I'm using Java 11. In the dependency, I'm going to use web MVC. Why web MVC? Because why web? Because I'm using some controllers, using some REST controllers, so that requires a Spring Web dependency. Let's generate this. This is generated. I'm going to open. Okay, now this is created a folder here. Let me copy and paste it in my workspace. Okay, so this workspace, I pasted this project in my workspace. Let me go to Eclipse and import it. Existing Maven project, browse, terminal gigs. Okay, so my project is importing right now, so it will take some time. Okay, so now project is imported right now. Now I have to create see, this is my Spring Boot. This is my application where my this is the main, okay, main method where the application starts. The Spring Boot application starts. So I'll create a package here. I'll create a class and package at the same time. So my package name is handler, and my class name is like um, let's take stream lambda handler. Okay, okay. So this is stream lambda handler, or when we deploy our application, then the lambda uh, starts the application from this class. Okay, for that we need to add some dependency, because we need to create this application. We need to create uh, this Spring Boot application as a lambda container and deploy it on the AWS Lambda. So for that we need to convert this whole application, Spring Boot application, as a lambda application. For that we need to add some dependencies. So this is the dependency is required to create the Spring Boot application into a Lambda container. Okay, so now our dependency is added, and there's one more thing we need to convert in this form is this build plugin. So currently this build plugin is what it is doing, it is creating a jar based on the Maven plugin, Spring Boot Maven plugin. But as we are creating a Lambda application, so we need this shaded uh, plugin from AWS Lambda. So I'll copy and I'll paste this thing also. Okay, and yes, this is pasted. So this will create a jar. Okay, and this will exclude this Tomcat, because AWS is a serverless and we do not require the Tomcat server inside our application, so we can exclude like this. So yeah, that's all for now for this form.xml. Later we will add some more dependency and according to the requirement. So let's come back to our stream lambda handler class. So this is stream lambda handler class is the entry point from the lambda application. So it needs to be implement some interfaces to to get the request from API gateway. For that we have a class request handler, which takes which takes AWS proxy request and which gives AWS proxy response. Okay, so this AWS proxy request response is nothing but to get the request from API gateway and send back the response from the API gateway as well. So that's why we use API proxy request and response. Okay, so let's create a handler. This handler is also taking the request and response from the API gateway. Okay. And this handler is creating the container on the AWS Lambda. Okay, this is a whole Spring Boot application is going inside a container, and then that container is this uh, Spring Boot Lambda handler container. Okay, I'm creating a static class. Why I'm sorry block? Why I'm creating static block? Because when this application is deployed on AWS server and AWS Lambda, and this is class is the entry point of AWS Lambda. So when this class loads, this is static method executed at that time. So static method is executed at the time of the class loading. Okay, so let me initialize the handler. So our handler is let me write the code first and I'll explain how it works. So okay, so what this handler is doing, handler variable is doing, this is creating a Spring Boot application. Let's say this is converting the Spring Boot application into a Lambda container. So what we are doing here is we are creating a new Spring Boot proxy handler builder with this class and with the default proxy. Okay, default API gateway setting in this application, and this async init we are using, like when the initialization is start, we are keeping a track on that. So this method is for that. Spring Boot application is like which class is the responsible for starting the Spring Boot application. So we know that this is the which have the main method is the class. Okay, so we use this method as well. Async init is initialization starts from here and it's builded and initialized. So something went wrong in this, then it goes into the catch block. So this is why did we use this long, because sometimes the Spring Boot application takes longer to start to boot up. So we use this async time as this is asynchronous booting of the Spring Boot application for the AWS Lambda, for the AWS Lambda. So this is what the class is doing, this is what the static block is doing. So once this is started, this is the handle request method. So now when the request is coming from the API gateway, this handle request method invokes and perform all the tasks. So let's create one controller, one test controller. So let's create a class and package at the same time, controller, and the class name is, let's say, terminal key controller. Okay, so this should be annotated as rest controller request mapping, and let's create a get mapping. Okay, so controller is ready. Now the only thing is required is to deploy the application on AWS Lambda and to test this API is working or not. So that's it for today's video. In the next video we will create a Lambda function on the AWS console, and we'll create a API gateway. So we'll get the API and we will hit the API from the postman, and we'll see the response is coming success or not. So I hope you like this video. So please like this video, share this video, and do comments on this video. Also, if you require this dependency and these files, please do comment on my video and send a mail to me. The mail is attached with this with the description of the video. You can get it from there, and please let me know if you required anything. And also, if you need a GitHub repository, then also I'll provide you the details when you send me the mail. That's it for now. Thank you so much for the watching.